You're involved in so many things, it makes my head spin. It really does. You're involved in so many things.
I get a lot of happiness out of maybe unexpected things. At our farm, watching a kid pull a carrot out of the ground, I've just changed the life.
Yeah.
Right? They'll never look at food the same way again. When young people ask me for advice, I always tell them the same thing. Work on your shit, man. Get your peace. Find your peaceful state. Figure out your issues. Bring some awareness to your conditioning and heal your traumas. And then that's the foundation you want to be operating from. That's where you want to get your business ideas from.
Welcome back to RISE Podcast, Life Stories of Accomplished Individuals. Today, I'm really happy to have my good friend, David Centner here. David, how's it going?
It's nice to be here, Gary.
You know, this has been a long time coming. I've been twisting your arm to do this, and I'm so grateful that you've finally said yes to me. I want to jump into reading a bit about of your bio, some research that I did, because I like to frame these conversations so people understand that the value that I'm extracting is based on certain accomplishments. And I have a lot to say about this because some of this is, kind of it's a fusion of what I found, what I know, and just my general opinion of you, because I do value our friendship as much as I do. So, David Centner is a successful inventor, entrepreneur, tech visionary, and philanthropist with pioneering ventures in web development, online marketplaces, online advertising, and electronic toll collection. David has achieved 4 successful exits with technology companies he founded and led, including Highway Toll Administration, which was acquired in 2018 by $6.5 billion global buyout fund, Platinum Equity. Hundreds of millions of rental car customers have paid billions in tolls using David's innovations in electronic toll collection. David Centner Enterprises operates as a division of DLC Capital Management, David's family office, who also acquired one of, coincidentally, Canada's fastest growing companies called Guaranteed Removals. The acquisition closed on January 1st, 2021, and wasn't announced until they rebranded it to Erase.com. David and his wife, Layla, who's also a friend, who's also been on the podcast, they support over 50 philanthropic organizations nationally, one of which is New York-based Teachers Village Project, a national strategy to build affordable housing for educators. And David, you're a modest guy, I know, but I'm gonna throw out a number here. David and Layla, according to my research, recently made a $40 million donation to the Miami branch of the Teachers Village Project. Across his investments, philanthropy, and projects, David is consistently driven by a passionate interest in uplifting humanity in various ways. And, there's more, there's obviously Sandner Academy, which all 3 of our children go to. There's the farm that you've created where you grow food to feed the children at the school. There is your real estate development company. There's a lot. However, in everything that I know and everything that I've researched, I just feel that there's this one accomplishment of yours that it's so underrated. And, regarding everything else you've done, and the fact that in 2012, you successfully proposed to Layla with a flash mob in New York City. So
Thanks for lightening things up, Gary.
Well, yeah, but before we get into anything else, I know, because you're such a serious guy. The thing is that, David, you're not this serious guy. Like, you're this serious guy when it comes to business, but every time you and I have spent any kind of time together, this isn't, like, I don't know not that I don't know, but I'm not as familiar with the human being that you are, because to be able to achieve what you've achieved, especially starting, because I know where you started from, and we'll jump into that, but that's not the David I know. The David I know is not the person who is required to accomplish all of these things. But I think you're changing that you can be a kind and soft, like not soft in a negative way, person and still accomplish what you've accomplished. But before we get into all of this, because I have a lot on my mind and a lot I want to touch upon, tell me about this flash mob thing. What was the genesis of this flash mob thing with Layla?
So I wanted to propose to her. It was clear as can be that we were destined to be married. And I'm a creative guy. I consider myself a creative person first and foremost. So I wanted to do something special and different. Flash mobs were kind of all the rage at the time, and so I decided that I wanted to propose to her in that way. And I found a production company that.
It was actual production. Okay, yeah, I guess so. I mean, I saw the video. Yeah,
I had to find somebody who could help me put the whole thing together. I chose a song. They helped. They put together all the choreography. They told me my choreography. So a couple months prior, I really worked hard on practicing my routine with my personal trainer, who happened to be a really good dancer.
Right.
Anyway, and there were a couple of really close calls. She almost caught me on 2 different occasions. One time we were away on vacation, and she was in the shower in the hotel room, and I was just practicing my moves without music in front of the mirror, and she comes out and she sees me dancing with no music, but she didn't think anything of it. She just thought I was like getting ready to go out and have a good time.
She didn't think that was strange? Was that a normal thing that you did from time to time?
What?
Was that a normal thing that you did from time to time? And she said yes.
Yeah, so she was super. If you want the, if we go,
I want it. I want it. That's what I'm here for.
So this was in New York City in Union Square Park.
Yes.
I got us a hotel room at the W, which is literally right there, and she was sick. She was really, really sick.
Okay.
And I needed her to go downstairs badly under the premise that we're going to meet some business friend of mine, and we're going to go out and have drinks and dinner and so on. And she didn't want to go, and I got her to rally enough that she would go down, at least meet him and say hi, and maybe go have a drink, and that's it. Little did she know that downstairs was waiting. All the dancers, like 150 dancers, were waiting, and we went and go to hang out in Union Square Park, and then the music starts, and one thing led to another, and eventually I jumped into the group and I started dancing, and then I got down on one knee and proposed, and she said yes, and it's on YouTube.
Yes.
And the New York Times covered it, and I was I was really not sure if I wanted it to be covered or not, and so eventually I decided that I wanted to. So to this day, if you look it up in the New York Times, the headline is called "Shock and Awe."
Yes.
and then the YouTube video has a lot of views.
Do you feel she would have said yes had you not have gone to that effort?
Yeah,
I think so too. I think so too.
We knew on our first date, Gary. I'm not exaggerating.
So I was recently, I had the pleasure of attending your 10-year vow renewal, which, by the way, was a full-blown wedding.
It was a full-blown wedding.
In your castle. In your castle, yes.
Thank you. It was a whole weekend.
It was a whole weekend.
Yeah.
We had such a good time. So we flew to New York, and we went to your beautiful property up there, and you literally had like a full-blown wedding. It was great.
Yeah.
But in addition to the full-blown wedding, we're going to get into all the business stuff. We're going to get into it. But it's hard with you because, we've had so many cool experiences together. But yeah, it was a full-blown wedding, and you guys were awesome because all the kids came too. So there were a bunch of kids who came, from the community, from your community that you've created. And you had set up these castles and water slides and everything for essentially your wedding, your vow renewal. And that is something that is so, it's so Layla and David. You guys, any occasion you have, the infrastructure that's put in for these occasions is kids first. It's always the case with you guys. It's always the case.
Now that you mention it, I do see the pattern.
Yeah. No, well, but that's, that's clearly where your priorities are. I mean, look,
family.
Yeah. So I want to I have a lot of kind of, random thoughts about the things that I want to talk about, but I specifically want to jump into the school for a second before we get into usually I like to do these interviews chronologically, but I just want to jump into the school because I have this thought on my mind. And one of the things that, I notice is there's this like emerging trend of clubs, if you will. So like there's YPO, which I'm sure you're familiar with, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot more of these. I mean, I'm building one right now for influencers. Valeria and I are building one for influencers. And these are clubs where people, they pay, they get programming, they get networking. We were part of a beach club, recently. And so I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And I'm guessing you're a member of various ones all over the world. The thing is that what you're doing with the school, I feel you've inadvertently, maybe, I don't know if you meant to do it, but you've created this type of community and this type of value within the school. So in addition to, the value of educating the kids with all of the, cutting edge curriculum and all of the things that you do, you also, like, the school is very keen on unifying the parents. So you've created a community, and I'm more than certain with all of the multiple WhatsApp groups, all of the meetings, the parties in your home, that you guys host parties in your home. And I don't mean for this to sound like a commercial for the school, but I'm so, we're so in this community, and I know that the people within the community have become friends. Some of them I'm sure have done or are doing business together. Was this a conscious thing that you did, like you and Layla did when you created the school to unify the parents?
I mean, not so much. I mean, personally, selfishly speaking, when we started the school, at the time that we started the school, I wanted to manifest more masculine energy in my life. And coincidentally, a couple of guys had started it wasn't WhatsApp, it was on Telegram, just talking to each other and getting together. And I was like, that's gold right there. Yeah. That's scalable. Wow, how cool would that be if we had like a brotherhood? So we created we transformed very quickly that Telegram group into a WhatsApp brotherhood, and then there's a corresponding sisterhood. And the purpose of these groups is for fun, togetherness, love, connection, support. There's some rules in there, no politics. I mean, there's plenty of places to talk about controversial stuff. This is all just for fun and togetherness. And as you know, we get together regularly.
Yes.
And there's the most obscure need that anybody might have, they can post literally within minutes. They'll probably get a couple of sources for whatever they need, and now my manifestation. I mean, these are my friends, and these are my boys, everybody, and because of the whole COVID experience. The importance of community it's in my opinion, our opinion, is more important than ever. We really have to stay together and take care of each other. And so I just love that we have this community. They have my back, I have their back. And
you practice what you preach, because both you and Layla, because look, I know how busy you guys are. I just listed off all these ventures that you guys are into, which I don't know how you do in terms of just the sheer volume of everything you do. But David, literally, like if I text either one of you, within 5 minutes you're responding. And I don't want to put that out there that everyone's going to start messaging you, but I mean it really means a lot. I want to briefly mention how we met, and then I want to jump into your kind of early life, and I want to talk about your business journey.
Okay.
So you remember how we met? Do you remember?
I was not there.
You were there.
I was not. No.
I specifically remember the story, but okay, go ahead.
The kids. Oh yes, I was there. Yes.
So we were renting a home in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Before we moved here, and we were at the park. Okay.
I do remember. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And our kids were playing, and I looked over, and you had Mike there, which I thought, coming from Canada, was peculiar. Because Mike was there, he's a daunting guy, and he was there to take care of your family.
Security.
He was security.
Yeah.
Okay. And I had never seen that before. So I looked over at him, and he had your dog with him, and I looked over at him and said, "Hey, is everything okay?" And he kind of looked at me, and he kind of barked at me a little. He goes, "Whoa, why do you care?" I said, "Well, I don't know. Like, should I leave the park because it looks like something's going to go down here? You look like you're a menacing looking dude in a park for children."
Not to mention the dog.
Not to mention the dog. That said, "Do not pet" on the dog. The dog is like
Belgian Malinois.
Yes, correct. And so. And as soon as you saw, you probably don't remember, but as soon as you saw, kind of, I was questioning him, and I was just like a dad in the playground. You ran over and you said, "Hey, how's it going? My name is David Centner, this and that." I'm like, "What's going on? What's this guy doing here?" And you said, "Oh, don't worry about it. Everything's fine." And then you asked me what I do, and I said, I'm always embarrassed when people ask me what I do, and I kind of said, "Well, we're influencers and we have a media company." And then, you said to me, "Have you guys found a school yet?" And I said, "Well, yeah, we just got here, so not really." And you said, "Well, we own a school." And I said, "Okay." And then we toured the school, and then, we got in. And I have a feeling that you probably called ahead and said, "Hey, I like these guys." I have a feeling. I could be wrong.
No,
you didn't pull any strings? Because we got in pretty good.
Yeah, no, you're on your own merits, and you're a great fit, and your kids are fantastic. I love your family.
Thank you. The feeling is mutual. Okay, so that's how we met. Let's talk about your businesses. So I want to go back to I want to go back to your early life, and I want to understand where you came from. I want to understand kind of what your circumstances were and how you made this transition into entrepreneurialism. So can you kind of take me, where are you from? You're from
I'm
New
from
York.
Miami.
Oh, you're from Miami. That's right.
I'm from Miami. Born and raised.
Okay.
Yeah.
Born and raised.
Yeah.
Born and raised. And did you come from like a very financially affluent family?
The complete opposite.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know the answer to that.
I do know the answer to that. I do know the answer to that. Okay. And I mean, how much can you talk about that? Or how
I'll
much
give you
do
the
feel
bullet
comfortable?
points.
Yeah.
Yeah. Poverty,
Yeah.
abuse, verbal and physical, terminal illness, suicide attempts, just really massive dysfunction, bullying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really messed up.
You know, in speaking with Layla, Layla's a little more candid than you, and I'm not. It's not a criticism. It's good. Layla went into a lot of detail around her early life, and I feel that there was a lot of similarities in terms of like the situation that that she found herself in, that you found yourself in.
Well, let's put it this way: we have a little competition between the two of us.
Yeah.
And I win for more messed up.
Okay, because hers was really messed
Hers
up.
was messed up too.
Yeah. So I mean, David, look, now I'm not going to speculate on your net worth, but it's up there. Like, you're very accomplished. Your exits were super meaningful. To go from where you were to where you are now, how did you even know that this was possible? Because when people are in that situation that you found yourself in your early life, there's a wall. There's a wall that prohibits people from understanding, from having the knowledge to know that there is something on the other side of it. It's different now because now there's the internet, and now people who are born into similar circumstances that you were born into, if they can at least afford an iPhone, they can see on social media how people live, and they can see that it's possible. And there's all these business gurus. But at the time that you were going through this in your early life, that wasn't the case. How did you know that this was even possible?
Well, I sort of got fixated that money can solve my problems. If I could just make some money, then that's a step in the right direction. So I started working at a really early age. Literally at the age of 10, I had the cliche newspaper route.
Yeah.
But I took that really, really seriously. When I was 12, I got a job working at a International House of Pancakes as a dishwasher. I worked there for years. I went from dishwasher to busboy to short order cook. By the time I was 16, I had 4 jobs at the same time. And what these jobs allowed me to do, not only just make money, they got me out of my house. My house was bad. So it served 2 purposes: to put money in my pocket, which then I could go and buy my own clothes, from Kmart or whatever, the sneaker bin where you pick the shoes out of the bin. I bought my own car when I was 16. I think it was $1,000 for my car, and just got me out of the house because my house was a train wreck. My father died when I was 15 in my arms, and in the hospital after a million years of being in and out of the hospital. He had emphysema, non-smoking emphysema. That's a small percentage of people who get emphysema get it from not smoking.
Is that a cancer? Or is that?
I don't know. No, it's has to do with the little air pockets in your lungs. The alveoli, I think they're called.
Alveoli, I believe.
Okay,
but I don't know. I'm as clueless as you are with it. Okay.
Yeah. And and he had lung issues since he was a kid, and ultimately it became, I guess, full blown emphysema. So he had to stop working when he was 5.
Is your mom still around?
No, she died. I don't know, like 15 something years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So she was working multiple jobs as well at the same time. We were just trying to get by. This was a house just trying to get by with a lot of issues. So getting work was a great way for me to get out. And so I'd like to say, I wish I could sit here and say to you, my ambition came from I wanted to improve humanity and all. No, it was from a foundation of suffering and survival. And and so I did it the old-fashioned way. I put my shoulder down and I ran through walls and did whatever it took, and I had a number of successes, ultimately culminating in a very large success, like 6-7 years ago, and then I realized, wow, I don't want to keep doing this. This is not a great pattern. I need to find my peace and my happiness. So when young people ask me for advice, I always tell them the same thing. Work on your shit, man. Get your peace. Find your peaceful state. Figure out your issues. Bring some awareness to your conditioning and heal your traumas. And then that's the foundation you want to be operating from. That's where you want to get your business ideas from. Not from the suffering, anxiety-ridden. I had a medical issues. I had a heart attack at the age of 41. I had a divorce after 17. Like,
How old are you now, David?
I'm 58.
You're 58.
Yeah.
I remember when you and I were talking about maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. We were at your house. We were at the pool at your house, and we were chatting. And I remember that was the first time you told me about how you had built your business from a place of the opposite of what you just described, from a place of stress and anger and all and all this negativity. And to your point, it culminated in you having a heart attack. You had then you sold the highway toll administration business that you had, and that was life changing. But you had exits before that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was my fourth exit.
That was your fourth exit.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you did that. And then I remember when you were talking about the kind of underlying premise of the school was for children to function and to be able to run a business and to be leaders from this place of peace, from finding their peace. So I have a question for you regarding that. And I remember when you told me that, I thought about I had thought about it. I haven't gotten a chance to ask you about it. You found your peace after the pressure of the financial pressure was gone. Meaning you were okay. Like, you weren't simultaneously trying to find your peace while you were trying to work, live paycheck to paycheck or month to month, which a lot of people do. So my question to you is, and I agree with your philosophy, by the way, I'm not challenging it. I agree with it. I agree that running a business, even for myself, I stress a lot about different things. But to function from a place of peace and have worked out and have done the work, which I know you did. You traveled to India to do the work, right? I know. Mm-hmm. But how do you recommend people do it pre, financial freedom?
And we live in the age of the internet. There's so many resources available online. There's a lot of ways to get there. The group that we're very involved with, I'll put a plug. It's called ACAM, EKAM. They're headquartered near Chennai in India.
Okay.
Layla and I literally spent half of 2019 there. But they have a book. It's called The Four Sacred Secrets, and I don't remember the subtitle. How to Live in a Beautiful State for Prosperity and Happiness, or something like that. That's a great starter. What's the cost of a book?
Right.
The premise is very accessible. It's all about your state. What state are you in? Are you in a beautiful state, or are you in a suffering state? And most of us are walking around all the time in some aspect of suffering, whether it's the obvious stuff like anger, resentment, sadness, depression, or like micro kind of suffering states, like somebody cut you off in the parking lot and
right.
took your parking spot. But all day long, these things are happening.
Yeah.
And so the first step is just bringing awareness to your state. That's like half the battle, just that alone.
Yeah.
You don't have to have any money. You could be living paycheck to paycheck
sure.
to bring some awareness to your state. So that's what I really, that really resonates with Layla and myself. And there's other ways. There's lots of stuff out there. There's therapy. There's plant medicine. There's just a lot. And
but you feel people should prioritize it. And you know what? I believe people don't. I believe people are, especially ambitious people. Ambitious people, they have their head down, like you did for many years before you came to the realization that you needed to fix all of these things, that you needed to find your peace. And myself included for many years. And it's a difficult thing to come back to that place when you're running a business, when you're dealing with the stress of life, with children, with just all of the things. Like we both know, it's hard to remember to go back to that place of peace. It's to do the work. It's the work that's the difficult part to do.
It's so hard, and it takes an enormous amount of courage. But when you do it, there's liberation on the other side.
Yeah.
And I know it can be very confusing, and there's lots of reasons not to prioritize it. But I mean, that's everything.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. And I also feel like it's. I heard a quote recently. I don't know it verbatim, but it was something like, "Your children deserve the best version of you." They really do. They really do deserve that. And so, like, I've always, for me, on my own path of self-improvement, of always trying to be better. They're probably because I think as humans we feel better when we're selfless. So to tell myself that I'm doing this for my kids in terms of my health, my fitness, my nutrition, my peace of mind, that I'm doing it for them. So
it's true.
It's a good motivator. It is true.
Yeah. So as you know, I have 2 kids from a previous.
Yes.
And 2.
I've met all 4 of the
little
children.
ones.
Yes.
And my older ones are a product of a previous version of me. So I very clearly understand what you're saying. And so the environment they grew up in, and was the conditioning was an environment that I created. And so I'm really clear on the impact that we have on our kids. Much of it is blind, but if you start to awaken and realize, bring some awareness to it, we can, create a better environment for them. We'll have less issues, hypothetically, as they grow up.
You feel with your older boys, you were operating more from a place of kind of stress with all of your businesses, and you were also kind of you were still very much the product of your early life.
Horrible stress.
Yeah, of course.
Horrible.
Of course.
Horrible.
Of course.
Yeah.
I want to go back. No, look, I mean, David, there's having I think that the stress you put on yourself was you're almost like a victim of your own success, right? Because the amount of stress that I can imagine you were under with the scale of the enterprises that you had at the time, and now your scale's even bigger, but at the time when you were still new to it, it must have been very difficult. Like, did most of your stress come from business, from operating businesses?
It wasn't a happy home as well. But even this most recent exit that I had, it took over 8 years to turn the corner before I knew it was going to be okay. Every day I would walk in that office and think, this could be the day we go under, which is not a great attitude, by the way, as an entrepreneur.
Yes, you're right. Sorry, so for 8 years, you were building it and you were on you were on the fence. And then how long after those 8 years did you then
From
sell
like
it?
year 8.5 to when I sold it at year 16, it was like a hockey stick.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was 16 years in total.
Yeah.
When did Layla come on board?
Layla came aboard around year 11.
Year 11.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going on different tangents because this is so unscripted, right? Okay. So my understanding is, so you met Layla, and I remember you told me when you met her. Is it okay to say how you met?
Sure.
Yeah. You guys met online.
Yeah.
Okay. And you guys met, and she was a CPA.
She found me, by the way.
Listen, you're a handsome guy. You're a catch. I can understand.
Well, she expanded her horizons because she was in California and she was a little tired of that scene and expanded her search to New York guys, where I was at the time. And, and I popped up, and she liked my profile, and I saw her profile, which I loved. And I wrote to her, how is this going to work? You're like in California. And she strongly implied that she would move for love. And so I got on a plane and we had our first date in California. And that night, we knew. I looked at her and I said, we're going to be together a long time, aren't we? And she said, yeah. It was crazy.
Wow.
So crazy.
I'm getting goosebumps.
Yeah.
Wow.
Date 2, date 2, she flew to New York. She had a really bad cold, and we were lying in bed and she's covered in snot, and it just blurted out of my mouth, "I love you." This is our second date.
Wow.
And then she said, "What?" and I'm thinking, well, maybe she didn't hear me, even though my face is literally 6 inches from hers, and then I know she heard me. And she made me say it again, and then she said it back, and that's this
after 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah, that was our second date. Yeah.
What version of David did she have? Did she have, because I'm seeing like two, like there's the version of David, like you've used kind of as an example, like when you raised your boys and then when you raising the girls, when you had crossed the line and done the work. So had she met you when you were still in that stressed kind of?
Yeah, one thing I really fell in love with her about was that she was clearly dedicated to her own personal development. Mm-hmm. I knew that, and I was too. But this was very early on in my journey. But she was very committed to being the best version of herself and being the best person in a relationship. I'm like, this is great. So this is also advice I give others. If you're gonna, when you're looking for a relationship, make sure you guys are aligned when it comes to that stuff.
Yes,
because that is not sustainable if both of you are on different paths.
If both of you aren't committed to improvement.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. With the same level of intensity as well.
Yes, yes. I agree. With Valeria and I think we got lucky. I also think I rubbed off on her because she's a lot younger than I am, and as Layla is, she's younger than you. And so
she rubbed off on me in this way. I have to give her credit. Yeah.
Right. So Layla, I remember you told me when you met her, she was a CPA, and you didn't really think much of it professionally. Like you didn't, not that you didn't think anything negative about it, but it didn't really cross your mind that, her professional, kind of her status. But she started working at your company.
No. So
tell me the story, because I have an understanding of what the story is, but I'm trying to.
When we met, I was living in a very inexpensive apartment, ground floor, dingy, and when I met her, I took great pride in telling her that I negotiated for all the furniture in this place for $3,000 from the previous tenant. So she thought I had not much going on, and she's she knows how to make money. She was a CPA for Arthur Andersen.
That's right.
and so on. So she thought, all right, I guess I'm gonna have to go to work. I'm gonna have to be the breadwinner in this relationship. She had no idea that my company was, doing fairly well and was on its way to great heights. And then she completely undersold herself to me. I'm a CPA. I mean, with all due respect, that just means you passed, you passed the exam, which is no easy thing to do, but it doesn't say anything about entrepreneurship or anything.
Of course not.
And she had a couple of clients doing some accounting work for them virtually. I thought it was a relatively small business, and so basically, I had no idea what assets she brought to the table, and she thought I wasn't bringing much to the table either. And we were gonna have to, we'll be on our own.
How long did this charade go on?
We fell in love, got engaged. Much time elapsed. Seriously.
So you kept, sorry, how many employees did you have at the time that you met Layla?
When I met her, I mean, probably a couple hundred. The company never got huge. We had at the most, maybe 250 employees.
I know, but when you say a company's not huge, a couple of hundred employees, I mean, that's a sizable company, in my opinion. But my question is did you hide? Did she not know? Did she not stop by the office and see a couple of hundred people?
A lot of them were in the field. A lot of them were abroad. She came by the office maybe once. Yeah.
What was it? Were you consciously trying to hide this from her?
Not hide. She wanted to add. She would tell me all the time, "I want to add value. I want to help." And so I was like, you do your thing, I'll do my thing. And I guess I sort of resisted. I didn't know how amazing of a business person she is with the financial and operational chops that she has. I just didn't know. I just didn't know. And so she did her thing, I did my thing. Then one day, after we got engaged, we were at home and a check got delivered to the house, which was printed from the company. It was handwritten.
For your company?
What? For my company. It was actually for the cleaning lady or something like that. And all her CPA red flags went off. Why is it handwritten? Why is it cut out cockeyed? Who keeps the checks? Where does the signature stamp kept? What's your approval process? And I didn't have good answers for any of this stuff. And so she offered remotely to document all of our financial controls, and which she did in less than a week, remotely. It was way before Zoom.
Yeah.
And then we discovered some vulnerabilities and inadequacies and so on. And then we had to we replaced some people, got a new controller, and one thing led to another. Then she got her hands around our merchant services, which is the credit card processing. Yep. So 99% of our business, actually probably close to 100%, was taking people's credit cards. And she saw our statements and saw something looked really out of sorts here. And so She happened to, when she was a CPA, had a client in the merchant services business. So she actually knew this really kind of cryptic space, which that's amazing that she did.
Yeah.
And anyway, helped uncover a massive issue we were having with our provider at the time, and renegotiated terms with a new provider, and that freed up millions of dollars to the bottom line. And then I'm like, okay, you clearly deserve to be involved in the company.
Hold on a second. I just have to. I apologize for interrupting, but I just I want to make sure this doesn't go over people's heads when they're listening to this. So this is she was your wife already at the time.
We were engaged.
You were engaged. So this is your fiance. You're living together.
Yeah.
You guys are. You know who you're like. You know who you're like. You're like Mr. and Mrs. Smith. You know the movie Mr. and Mrs. Smith?
I haven't seen it.
So it's an older movie. It's with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, well, actually when they were still together.
Yeah.
And the premise of the movie was that they were both super spies, but neither of them knew that each other was super spies.
Right.
So that's kind of how it was.
Right.
So Layla basically saw the check, the handwritten check that was going to your cleaning lady from your company. And based off of that, she extrapolated this entire thing that saved you millions of dollars a year. Or millions
And that
of
was
dollars.
just the beginning of her getting to work with the company.
So then at that point, that was the flag for you to say, or that was like the green light for you to say, did you offer her a job?
Yeah, I made her the acting chief financial officer because I'm kind of a jerk move. I probably should have made her straight out the CFO.
Did you already have a CFO?
No.
Okay.
So she became the CFO, acting CFO. Then she became the true CFO, and then literally she helped transform the bottom line 40x. She helped grow the company
40x.
40x, yeah, and like within a matter of 5 years. And then Morgan Stanley was our investment bank that helped sell the company, but she pretty much muscled them aside and negotiated the whole thing herself.
Yeah.
You laugh because you're not surprised.
I laugh because I know Layla.
Yeah.
I laugh because of the conversations I've had with her. I wonder about, I really wonder about serendipity, and I wonder about these things because, you had been through whatever you had been through. You had your company. You had, both of you had difficult lives kind of up until, in your early lives. And for you guys to meet and then kind of not tell each other about these superpowers that each of you possess out of, I guess, modesty. And then, right, what else could it be? You were used, it was modesty. I don't know what else it could have been.
Yeah. Humility.
Humility, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then for Layla to discover this handwritten check, and then for all that to happen, to then 40x your bottom line, and then you sell. And again, like I know you don't say what the number is, but it's a huge number. Okay, it's a huge number, and it's just, if you think about it, it's like what fairy tales are made out of. You know what I mean? It really is.
There is a fairy tale, and it's if I remember correctly, it has to do with a couple. The woman had really long hair, and she wanted to get her husband something nice for their anniversary,
yes.
But they had no money, so she cut her hair to sell her hair, while he did something. I forgot to get the money so he can buy her hair clips, a comb.
Yes, I know the one you're talking about. Yeah,
it's like that.
Yeah. It's wild, and I think you guys have there's such a presence to the both of you, and you guys are very well respected. So it all makes a lot of sense. David, I want to go back to the transition from, when you talked about when you were a teenager and you were working all of these jobs, where to me, I'd like to kind of explore that transition. I'd like to explore and understand how you went from where you were to this kind of, to doing projects at the scale that you've done them. I understand the scale that you're doing now because I already met you and understand the exits that you've had and understand but the experience that you've accumulated. However, I'm trying to understand from that beginning stage. Like, talk to me about your education. Did you go to college?
I did.
You did. What did you study in college?
I studied entrepreneurship at the Wharton School of Business.
Okay, so that's a pretty serious school.
Yeah.
Okay, how'd you get in there?
Well, I went to Tulane University my first year and then transferred out of there straight into the Wharton School. and my application was pretty good. I remember, it's funny, the essay question at the time was, if you could meet one person, living, deceased, or fictional, who would it be and why? And I wrote about Donald Trump, who was maybe in his mid-30s and was just then like in the cover of Fortune magazine.
Yeah.
This was the earliest that people were becoming aware of him. And I wrote about him because he went there. I thought that would look good. Many years later, not too long ago, I actually was sitting at dinner.
Yes.
Did I tell you this?
You didn't tell me. I know you spend a lot of time in what's this place in Florida?
Mar-a-Lago.
Mar-a-Lago, yeah.
Yeah. So I had the opportunity to have dinner with him.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be good, just me, Layla, and him. I thought it'd be an interesting icebreaker to tell him the story.
What do you think?
And like, look, here we are. I'm finally having dinner with you. Yeah.
Was that a surreal moment for you to have dinner with Donald Trump?
I mean, look, whether you love him or hate him, and support him or not, and I'm not revealing where I stand on him.
Well, respectfully, you had dinner with the guy, so I mean, you can't be too bad.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean mean much.
Fair.
But yeah, it's kind of cool to be sitting. Look, if it was Biden or Obama and I'm having dinner with them, having dinner from where I come from. I'm having dinner with a president or former president of the United States of America. That's pretty crazy.
It is pretty crazy. And the other thing about you is that, you talk about that as being crazy, but your $40 million donation, to help educators, that's not crazy to you, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that's not a crazy thing to you. To you, the crazy thing is, meeting other accomplished people, which I think is great, right? Again, it's that you keep coming back to that humility.
I get a lot of happiness out of maybe unexpected things. Like at our farm, watching a kid pull a carrot out of the ground, I've just changed the life.
Yeah.
Right? They'll never look at food the same way again. That's more important to me than anything, any financial accomplishment or some famous person. It doesn't mean much to me.
That's fair. After you sold the company, what was the event that was really life-changing? Like, because again, like, I keep coming back to your story and I'm trying to understand, like, what was was Highway Toll Administration the life-changing one, or that was your fourth exit? So were the other exits life-changing?
No. I mean, life-changing in terms of the first one. So I'm an early .comer. I started my first internet company in '96.
What was that business?
It was called K2 Design, and we were literally one of the world's first web developers.
Okay.
So I could count on one hand the number of web developers in the world. Yeah. I was in the right time, in the right place, and I saw something maybe others hadn't seen. It's a cool story if you want me to get into it a little bit. Yeah. So I was introduced to these two guys that were doing some very interesting things with interactive diskettes. So there was a period of time, I'm sure you remember.
Is that like floppy disks?
Floppy disks, yeah.
Like the 1.5 megabyte or something? What was it, 1.4?
Well, yeah, I mean, they and before that, had even less
capacity.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there was a period of time where instead of people giving out a business card, they would give one of these floppy disks. Do you remember ever getting one of these?
I don't remember.
You go back to your
office,
one, no. You install it, and you click around, and you do like a little brochure.
I remember the floppy disks. I don't remember people using them as business cards.
Yeah. So you needed some specialized software to create this, and I met these two guys that were doing this kind of work. I'm like, that is the future. That's the future of information. That's the future of commerce. And so I joined forces with them to go and try to sell some of these things. One thing led to another. The summer of like 95 or 96, I saw an article in the New York Times about these guys from MIT that had just done the first secure transaction on this thing called the World Wide Web. I'm like, what is that? And somehow I got in touch. I don't remember how I got in touch with them, but I got in touch with them. I went up there. I drove out to see them, mm-hmm. and they were working out of a house, and they were a bunch of developers that needed somebody to do some graphical front end work. And so, next thing you know, we're doing HTML web development work for this firm, and then that expanded from there, and we started doing work for AOL and IBM and Prodigy and MCI and so on.
And it was web development. You were developing their enterprise websites.
Websites for a lot of money. And I was 26 at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, and then that company took it public when I was 30.
So you took the company public at 30.
Yeah, I was chairman and CEO of a publicly traded company. Small IPO by today's standards,
Sure.
but still public.
Yeah,
is
no,
public.
yeah.
Yeah. So life changing. Yeah, because now I had a little took some money off the top when we went public. Had some money in the bank account. I felt comfortable ordering dessert in a restaurant. Yeah. Life changing. You asked me life changing. It really was life changing.
Right.
Yeah.
And then what was the business after that? That was exit number one.
That was exit number one. While I was at that first company, I had incubated at another company. That company had to do with selling online ads. All these ubiquitous ads that you see, we were very, very early in that space as well. And
Talking about display ads?
yeah, display ads.
Okay.
Yeah, banner ads.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of them got a little more complex with interactivity, with forms inside of them, and so on. We put together we incubated a company which aggregated demographics along the lines of golf or whatever, audiences, and then would sell ads to advertisers to hit that audience.
So you would work between the publisher, which was the people who had the website, and the
Yes,
advertiser.
That's right. So we had a whole network of
Sure. What was that company called?
That was, oh my God, that was called Click Now.
Okay.
With a Q.
That was there was a big space, right? Like there were a lot of companies doing
Well, we
this stuff.
sold it to.
Was it DoubleClick?
We sold it to. No, it wasn't DoubleClick. The other one. It's been a while. DoubleClick's competitor. It'll come to me.
It'll come to me too. Yeah. Okay.
And they were pre-IPO.
Yeah.
This was years ago. So we got stock in their company.
Right.
And then they went public, and then their stock took off. That whole sector that you're talking about took off, and people who were watching that stock saw that my company had in our treasury a large, lot of shares in that company.
Yeah.
And then so our stock started to take off as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So I consider that exit too.
Okay. And then what was the third company you started?
So the third company.
Sorry, so both the first and second, those were public exits. Those were exits in public entities.
Well, we sold to a company pre their IPO, which then went public, and we enjoy the benefits of
David,
their.
how'd you know how to do all this stuff? No, but think about it. Like I feel like you take it for granted that you know how to do all this stuff. But for the people listening and to myself, like if I had a company and somebody said, "Oh, buy you take it public," I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to do stuff like that. How did you learn how to do all that stuff?
I mean, you just ask. You just talk to people. Everything's possible. Just people have the answers. My most recent company, I felt no matter what I needed to do, no matter what issue I encountered, I knew somebody to pick up the phone and call, whether they were getting compensated or not. Often not. They just want to help. People want to help.
They do.
Yeah. If somebody were asking me, a young person were asking me, how do you do this? I am more than happy to give my time to that person. I know you feel the same way.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
So it's out there. I don't have all the answers. The things I want to do in my future, I don't have the answers for that too, but I know where to get the answers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So talk to me about company number 3.
So company 3 was a web cloud-based software service where we focused on something called reverse auctions. And
SaaS. It was SaaS.
It was a SaaS before it was even called SaaS.
Right. What year was this?
It was called an application service provider. The former name of SaaS was ASPs.
ASPs. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was what year was this?
Oh my gosh. This was
Early
2000 maybe?
Yeah, 2000. Okay.
Yeah.
And so
99, 2000.
and it was
like that.
online auctions?
Yeah, reverse auctions. So a reverse auction, so a straight auction is when you want to sell something and the buyers congregate and bid the price up, and
Yes.
the highest price wins. A reverse auction is where you are the buyer and you specify what you want to buy, and the sellers congregate and bid the price down. That's reverse auction. And so we developed some very sophisticated tools in the B2B space, primarily for people who are in the manufacturing and service sectors to go and source the things that they want by using our software to specify what they need and want, and then it goes out to the.
It was kind of like an RFP, like a request for proposal?
That's right, but then it would run an auction format.
In an auction format.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then what was the exit there?
So that one, we were a little ahead of our time. I'd like to think that we were about 7 years before Alibaba. We could have been Alibaba, but we were just way early, and there were other very well-funded companies, Ariba, Commerce One, Free Market. I don't know if you know if any of these companies ring a bell.
Yeah.
And so we were all going after scraps. We'd all go to these conferences, and we'd have all of our tchotchkes and giving out stuff, and there was very few customers. And I saw the writing on the wall that we needed to get out of this. We needed to. Well, our VCs didn't want to give us any more money, so we needed to sell the company. I knew we needed to sell the company when Southwest Airlines asked us to participate in a reverse auction event for them to help them pick their reverse auction provider. So all of us reverse auction providers congregated at the same time to try to pick up the Southwest Airlines business, and we won with the low price of $0.00. And one of my partners was like, "This is great! It's an opportunity to get into the airline business." I'm like, "This is horrible. This is not good." And so anyway, we sold it to a company called Perfect Commerce. I don't know if they had such a great outcome, but I call that a single. I got out pretty good. So that was my third exit.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the genesis of Highway Toll Administration? Did you refer to it as HTA?
When we started?
Yeah.
No, I called it Travel Pass.
Travel Pass.
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, tell me the premise of it. I know the premise of it, but I'd like you to tell us.
So it's in the electronic toll collection space.
Yeah.
And we focused on fleets of vehicles primarily, rental cars. So if you rent a car in an area where tolling is occurring, you're going to be able to pay for your tolls electronically, either through image capture of the license plate or some device actually in the windshield which has a transponder in it. So somebody came to me with described to me an issue that he encountered, and I thought this could make a really good business. And I got to work understanding the viability of it, the legality of it. Can I just go and get some transponders and put them on rental cars and go from there? And basically wrote the first version of the software, started in my attic.
You wrote the first.
I wrote the software. Yeah. With all its ugliness, I'm a self-taught programmer, so it wasn't beautiful, but it got the job done.
Okay.
And found a very small rental agency in Long Island City outside the Midtown Tunnel in New York that had 50 cars and let me do my thing, let me put my software on his computer, let me put my devices on his vehicles, and just grew it and evolved it and ironed out all the kinks, developed a patent portfolio along the way. So if you get into a car today and you flip a lever, for example, and it exposes a transponder, I have a patent on that box. And then just one thing led to another. Like I said, it took 8.5 years to turn the corner, but then when we sold the company, we were managing the tolling for 4 million cars a year.
When you say it took 8.5 years to turn the corner, from a P&L perspective, were you just constantly breaking even, or you were burning cash? Like, what was going on?
Yeah, so all the money was going back in. It was growing very quickly, and when a company's growing very quickly and you don't have outside investment, that could be a problem also. So everything was going back into getting the technology to work better and better, more efficiently, reducing our expenses. It just kept going back into the company, and and I had that issue with the merchant services, which was really a stranglehold on the company.
Yeah.
And but around year 8.5, everything started to kind of.
So they were just charging you more than they should have on the transaction?
Yeah, way more. Yeah.
And it was just a question of just challenging them and saying, "Hey, like Layla just came in there and said you guys are charging us too much."
It was it was exposed what was going on.
Right.
Yeah. No further conversation was necessary.
Got it. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. I understand. Okay. Well, good. I mean, thankfully she caught it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And
The
then
funny thing is-
the company could breathe.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's interesting because, you already had you had a couple hundred people in this company and you were already at scale. And it just goes to show you, I think that's a really valuable lesson that even for us, we recently uncovered something that was costing us. I mean, we're nowhere near that scale, but and it was also like, wow, like I can't believe we found this. So that must have been like a huge relief.
Oh,
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah. Well, I think the lesson is that you really have to. I think it's important to do audits from time to time and to have like especially when it's an external person who's not close to it, for them to come in and really uncover things. I think that's really important. Okay, so after you sold the highway toll business. You could have, look, you know, I've had this conversation with Layla. You could have done nothing. You literally could have done nothing. You are involved, David. You're involved in so many things. It makes my head spin. It really does. You're involved in so many things. Like, you've got your construction company. Like, tell me about your construction company. Like, what do you do in this? Like, what's the kind of the thesis of your construction business?
I mean, we build stuff. We have multi-unit apartment buildings that we're building. We have a huge build out of our farm and retreat in Redlands area. It's near Homestead in South Miami. I own 180 acres up in Wellington, in Palm Beach County, which I have big aspirations for there.
Yeah, I remember you told me about that.
Yeah,
with the airstrip, right?
With the airstrip.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And we have cafes that we're launching in association with our farm.
One of them is across the street from the school.
That's right.
Right. And you develop the schools too. You have 3 campuses.
We have 3 campuses at the school.
Actually 4. You have the Brain Hub as well.
Sure, but I mean for little ones.
For the little ones, yeah. Okay. And so, well, the cafes. I know across the street from the kids' school, you're building this cafe and you're positioning. I mean, the way you explained it to me is that like it's open to the teachers and you're actually to the parents. But did I understand you correctly? You're putting in like almost like a co-working space for the parents to use while their kids are at school, or like a space for us to work?
Yeah, exactly.
Hold on a second. There's more. Hold on. There's more. I remember because now I'm like I remember these conversations. But are you building housing for teachers?
Yeah, we are.
For your teachers at Sandner Academy?
Yes, and we already provide housing for like 40 something of our teachers.
And why do you provide housing for your teachers? I mean, I know the answer, but I'd like for you to say it.
First of all, teachers are grossly underpaid.
Yeah.
And Miami is really expensive to live.
Sure.
So we want to attract the best teachers, and we don't want them to be driving an hour and a half each way. So we have a lot of housing that we heavily subsidize so they can live really close, if not within walking distance. And it's just a win-win. And hopefully, and so far, these homes are appreciating in value anyway, even though we're subsidizing them, and it works out great. It's great for the students.
Sorry, the homes are appreciating. The teachers are buying it.
These are homes. We purchase single family homes as well in the vicinity of the schools.
Right, but okay, the housing,
and we're building from scratch as well.
Right, so the housing that you're building for the teachers, if I understand correctly, one of the premises that you're not only relying on local talent for teachers, meaning if you identify teachers who live far away, you're taking away this prohibitive cost that they would have to move to Miami.
Exactly.
So you're widening your net. So I mean, to me, like that's it, David. It all comes back to one of the things I said earlier on in the conversation, that it's all for the kids. Like you guys, it's all like the fact that you can source teachers nationally, internationally, and you can bring them in and provide them with housing. You make it a much more. You're removing a lot of friction to getting the best educators. And again, I didn't mean for this to turn into like like a huge pitch for Sandner Academy, but I would be remiss not to bring this up. So, to me, the fact that you're doing this to be able to bring in teachers, and again, for the kids, but then it's the same premise that you do with the farm, right? So it sounds to me like you're very mission driven, and you're not very. Your humility and your modesty, it causes you to be like, you're not a great self-promoter, because the fact that I have to sit here, no, but it's true. It's not, look, I have to sit here and I have to pull this out of you, right? I have to pull this out of you. The fact that, hey, like you're building housing for teachers, to not limit yourself to only local talent in order for the kids to do better, like in order to benefit the kids. You literally built a farm. I think it's about 45 minutes from where we're sitting. Mm-hmm. Something like that. You built a farm with which to feed the children, because you guys, you obviously, you believe very much in nutrition. What's your, like, you're
sorry, I'm making you work so hard.
No, you're not. It's okay. I don't mind. I don't mind. I don't work as hard as you. I mean, listen, you got so much going on, but it's just incredible to me, David, that you and Layla, you continue to go down this path, and it really is about the community, and it really is about the kids.
Don't get me wrong, we want to make some money in the process.
Oh, I have no doubt.
Yeah.
I have no doubt.
Yeah.
And I don't fault you for that. I think you should. I think you should be making some money. You had some controversy around the school in terms of when COVID started. You want to...
Stupid COVID,
right?
Yeah.
Well, it's probably one of the reasons. It's not so stupid. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for COVID.
Right.
I'd be sitting in Canada doing my thing,
Right.
and not knowing the world that has opened itself to me. I'd be sitting in my little, I call it my ignorant box. That's where I was.
Right.
Up until that. Yeah.
I think that I agree with you. I think that in a backhanded way, it started to open people's eyes in a big way. Not everybody.
It opened people's.
but a lot.
It opened people. I think people who had the means and the ability to leave, especially what was going on in Canada, they did, and they came here. A lot of people came here. It was a mass exodus.
But you probably still know a lot of people who never fully woke up from what was going on around them.
You're right. You're right. I think you and I are talking about the kind of overreach of the government. I think we're talking about when I'm talking about the Canadian government. I think there's a lot of manipulation. I think that there was a lot of mismanagement and just a lot of incompetence around everything that happened with COVID. But I'm thankful for it. And I'm thankful for it because I would never have left Canada. It was my push to come here. And, for you, I feel that growing up in the United States, you're probably almost used to meeting people doing amazing things. But to me, I'm still very much like a kid in a candy store, because when I meet people like yourself and all the other amazing people that I've been so fortunate, Valeria and I are fortunate because we have a social media footprint, and that that gives us access to just such high quality people. That had nothing to do with how you and I met. That was completely, we call it IRL, where in my business, it means in real life. We met in real life. No, but it's incredible. So yeah, the shift, coming down here has been definitely life-changing. But just getting back to the school, so there was some controversy. You opened right around COVID. You opened the school, I think in the midst of COVID.
Months prior, the preschool opened, and we did a little M&A and bought another school, and that transaction closed in February of 2020, and then March, all hell broke loose.
Right, and so and you've got the 3 campuses. You've got the preschool, the middle school, the preschool, the elementary, and the middle high school.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're all very, I don't want to say strategically because... Well, maybe strategically. I mean, they're located is super central. It's like a bullseye of Miami. Like if you do a bullseye in the middle of the city.
Pretty much. They're all in Midtown Miami, Wynwood Design District, less than a mile apart from each other.
Yeah. So the controversy surrounding the schools, it was during COVID. And when I research you, I had to fish through all of these articles. I don't necessarily take them as a negative. I mean, the fact of the matter is, it is a private school, and you guys can do, quite frankly, whatever the hell you want to do, and you guys can make your policies. So to me, the fact that you were scrutinized as much as you were it just seems silly to me, because you didn't break any laws, you didn't do anything wrong. But at the end of the day, the media, I believe, is positioned in a way that they're just trying to get this. They're just trying to get the eyeballs. So they'll vilify, they'll do whatever they want to do,
It's not just the eyeballs. They also mainstream media leans a certain direction as well. And they were following the narrative very, very closely.
Yeah, of course.
So it's a combination of both.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But I also feel that people whose values align with the values of the school and yours and Layla's values, you guys have become like a beacon, in this country. And I know for a fact that a lot of the people that I met, they actually moved here to go to your school.
That's true. Yeah. So just for the viewers, to give them the summary of what happened.
Yeah, please.
Very, very early on in the rollout of the vaccines, there was a lot of anecdotal commentary on social media about the potential for harm from being in the proximity of somebody who's been vaccinated, even if you were not. Mm-hmm. And there was enough of these stories, like in the tens of thousands, that Layla was like, I have a deep responsibility to the children in in the school. What if everybody starts getting vaccinated and they're in the proximity of these kids, especially the little girls, because there's a anecdotally had something to do with,
Reproductive?
Menstruation and stuff like that. What if there's some truth to this and there is some irreversible harm to the children, especially the little girls?
Yeah.
And she could never sleep with herself. So she got on a Zoom call. Everything was on Zoom at the time, and implored everybody, if you really must take the shot, please wait until school ends. And
which is not unreasonable.
And there's only like 6 weeks left until school was ending, and somebody, COVID was very polarizing.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the composition of our parent community and our teacher community at the time was way more polarized than it is today. Now it's probably the most aligned community in many ways of any school, maybe in the world. But at the time, there were two different factions.
Yeah.
And somebody who I guess did not agree with her recorded it and released her video to the media, and they just had a field day with it, and it became a global sensation overnight.
Yeah.
And it went to the White House. It was other countries were following it about this school in Miami with some crazy people who told the teachers, don't get the vaccine because you might transmit something harmful to the kids. That was the controversy.
Yes, that was the controversy. But you've been, what's the word I'm looking for? There was recently there was something that happened. That vindicated is the correct word. Is that the correct word?
What
was it that happened? What was the recent press?
Well, the Wall Street Journal did a whole op-ed piece on us that basically said, you know what, these people might have been actually pretty right about almost everything. They didn't necessarily agree with us on the transmission stuff, but they agreed with us for all of our policies. We didn't do the masking. We didn't do the social distancing. We let the kids be kids.
It was unnecessary.
Yeah, but it was really bold at the time to make those decisions.
I'm saying the masking and all of the stuff, all of the precautions that were taken, they were unnecessary.
Unnecessary.
Right.
But to actually implement those, to not have those in a school environment was super bold. Nobody else was doing anything like that. And so we were vindicated for that.
Yes.
And I'd like to think that the Wall Street Journal kind of gave us the overall endorsement, and said at the end that they would send their kids to our school. So that was kind of cool.
And that's, and it's interesting that happened. It's interesting that, I really commend you and Layla for sticking to it, because was that a scary time? Or were you guys just like, I don't care, it is what it is?
No, it was really tense.
Yeah.
And we had a PR firm at the time, and she was like, I do restaurant openings. I don't do global media crises. So we had to get a crisis PR firm, and we found out, we're very fast learners. We found out very quickly that the media is not very nice. And we're trying to make us look really bad.
Yep.
So we almost immediately stopped doing live interviews, getting questions in advance, and kind of had to wrestle this thing to the ground in a matter of days. Mm-hmm. And we did an interview. I'll leave out names. It's not important. Like on the day 2 of everything blowing up on the roof of the preschool, it was like a 45-minute interview with a major morning TV show. And Layla and I were really peaceful and articulate and explained our positioning really well. Not one moment of that aired. And so nobody had any intention of making us look good. Let's put it that way. We were in another interview with I won't name names again, and this particular reporter just tried to egg on to get us really emotional and angry, to make us look bad. And we knew we have to corral this thing. And
I've had this experience too. I mean, I haven't had anything as as big as that. But that's what the media does, right? Look, I've been in the content space for a while, right? And I can tell you that the type of conversation you and I are having, right? This doesn't necessarily get people going. This isn't a sensational conversation. This is a conversation in order to extract value from somebody who's accomplished something, to be able to transfer that knowledge, to someone else. Whereas when you're in the media, and your reputation as a reporter is based on how many people will read your articles, of course they're not sitting there saying, David, tell me, how did you how did you do the work to find inner peace? Because nobody gives a shit about inner peace, right? Because the masses, what do they care about? They care about controversy. They care about these people, these wealthy people in Florida, in Miami, who have a school and said this about.
They're so nasty.
They're so nasty, but they're doing it to that's their
job. It's sad,
It is.
Yeah,
it is, and it's not necessarily about the truth. It's about sensationalism. But listen, I feel very strongly about this when it comes to the stuff that our kids consume.
Yeah.
And I know, and I don't know if it's like too private. If it is, we'll cut it out afterwards. But I know that there's been a technology ban in your home.
A technology what?
A technology ban.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
I've implemented the same thing.
Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're different kids.
Kids want devices. They want to play on their iPads. They want phones. They want to play on their phones. They want to consume content, whether it's TikTok or YouTube or whatever. And they don't want us over their shoulder. But we've learned there's something's, I have little kids, something's going on in their brain, and we don't really have our hands around it completely, but we know that when we used to give them a little bit, but you try to take it away and they flip out, and like hitting and crazy stuff that has nothing to do necessarily with the content that they were just watching. It's not like you could, in the old days, you'd say, oh, well, they're playing Mortal Kombat, and then they went out and, got super violent. No, they're watching like really tame kind of stuff, but then you try to take it away and they flip. So something's going on with their endorphins and their brains or something, or the content that they're watching, the way the characters are talking to each other, the conditioning, the way sisters are talking to each other, or brothers or friends. There's meanness, and they're learning something's happening in their brains, and they're learning something from these devices.
Have you ever asked yourself why this is the case? Why this content is made that triggers the children?
I think it's very intentional. I think there's hundreds of scientists that are working, all the time, literally trying to.
You're absolutely right. It's one thing, going back to what happened at the school with all these sensational articles and them trying to, egg you on to get this response from you. It's one thing when the media and content, I call the media essentially content creators, right? When they try to do that to elicit a response from you that will help make the content more sensational in order to get adults to engage with it. But it's just downright evil when people are doing this with children, right? So when people create content for children, and again, I'm in the content creation business, we put out so much content on a daily basis. And I can tell you that when I started observing what the kids are watching things, and this is even on long form platforms like Netflix, subscription platforms. They're just watching kids behaving badly because it's not interesting to see kids, all sitting around and talking about their health or learning. It's much more entertaining to see siblings fighting or children talking disrespectfully to their parents
or their teachers. Or
exactly.
Yeah.
That's the sensationalism, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is that a child's mind can't distinguish between reality and fantasy.
That's right.
Or and so it's just despicable. It really is.
Yeah.
So
there's one popular one on there. I can't remember the name of it. It's super popular, and it's all about using kind of arts and crafts to disguise where to hide your candy. It's it's very interesting. Yeah. But what does this teach our kids? How to smuggle stuff into the classroom.
It's worse than that, though. That's a best case scenario, is figuring out how to be crafty to hide your candy. They're teaching kids disgusting and terrible things, but again, they're doing it in order just to keep their attention, to monetize that attention.
Yeah.
So it really is bad. Sorry, I went on a tangent. This is a discussion that Layla and I had recently. We were talking on the phone maybe a couple of weeks ago, and we were having this discussion. So that it was kind of top of mind for me. But just getting back to the controversy at the school. So that all ended. You were vindicated and proven right. And how's the school doing now? I mean, I know the answer to the question, but how's the school doing now?
I mean, so this is our fourth year. We have about 330 students. Yeah. We took a big hit from all that controversy. It took us way down. I believe we were under 100.
Really?
Yeah. And a lot of teachers left. Mm-hmm. And but then we started attracting people from all over the world, literally, who learned about our school from the controversy, that moved here from Australia or England or Canada or other states within the United States who, once they heard about our school, was like, you know what? There's no other place
Yeah.
for my kid to go. Now, I think we probably would be much, much, much larger if we didn't have any controversy at all.
That's okay.
But it was sort of, it really saved the day, I guess, that this controversy did find receptive ears.
Yeah.
You know?
So, for me, when we enrolled at the school, I actually didn't even know about the controversy. I had heard something about it, but funny enough, I actually didn't go in and Google your name or Layla's name or Sandner Academy's name. You and I had met. I just felt very positive towards you and Layla. A few days later, you had sent me a text and sent me to the school, and I went, and that's where I met Josh, who's your director of the school. Who, by the way, he was here doing a cold plunge and a sauna last week, which you owe me because you've said you're gonna. I'll show you afterwards. I'll show you what I have set up. In any case, so yeah. What was I saying? Sorry, where was I? Remind me?
Yeah, so you heard about the controversy. You did not know about
I
the
didn't
controversy.
even know about the controversy. I heard some rumbling about COVID and you guys weren't into the vaccine, and I was just like, whatever. It's not relevant to me because I had such a positive experience when I toured the school, and Josh was so just forthcoming about the importance and really prioritizing the children, and even things like the decor of the school and how everything is. And you guys showed us the facility. Josh showed us the facilities. I was very impressed. So I didn't even know about this, oddly enough. But outside of the school, okay, so we know about the farm. I'm just trying to think of all these other projects you've got going on. There is Centner Wellness. Mm-hmm. Centner Wellness.
Yeah, so
that's another passion of yours.
Well, that's probably this one's my wife. So some products are distinctly hers, some are distinctly mine, and some we do together. But this one is hers. So Centner Wellness is a physical location that the flagship is on Brickell Avenue here in Miami. It's literally 15,000 square feet of every kind of unconventional healing modality, under the sun. No one's ever assembled such a bunch of services and equipment.
You got a bunch of space shuttles in there. I've been in there. There's such futuristic looking equipment that
and there's real miracles happening there, healing people who have cancers and Parkinson, and then professional athletes are coming. And we had the Duchess of York was in a few weeks ago.
Wow.
And it's really, really cool, and we think it's going to be a big success. So basically, the common thread on everything that we do has to do with health and wellness, whether it's children and saving our future, or whether it's our farm and feeding people and teaching them about regenerative agriculture, or our cafes, which is farm-to-table regenerative agriculture from our own farm, or providing housing for people, events at my house that have to do with spirituality and uplifting people. Just everything sort of checks that box.
Yeah.
And Miami has a very large and growing community of people who care about these things.
Right.
And but however, I do believe these things are scalable as well. So some of them will just be not big businesses, and they'll be profitable. We'll make sure everything's profitable. But some of them are designed to scale. So we have big aspirations.
For Sandner Wellness is designed to scale.
Centner Wellness for the farm and the cafes. I can scale that as well.
I think you can scale the school as well. You can go multi-city.
I can, and we do get a lot of interest already for that. We just have to iron out more curriculum for the high school and some other aspects.
Yeah. Well, I also think you need operators in those schools.
That's right.
In those areas.
Yeah.
You need operators.
Well, in general, it's all about people.
Yeah.
In all cases, you get the right people in place, then that's where our capacity comes from, because we have really good people running all of these things.
At the start of this talk, one of the things that I mentioned was erase.com. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about that and what that is? Yeah,
so erase.com is a company that we bought a few years ago during COVID, where we have the ability and the skills to, in some cases, to remove content online or to create additional content, which serves the purpose of suppressing potentially negative content that you wouldn't like to see. Mm-hmm. And the company was called Guaranteed Removals. That's the name we go by now, up to this point. But it came with the domain erase.com, which hadn't been utilized. And only now, after a couple of years, now we're starting to promote that brand.
Yeah.
And it's my belief, my hope that no one has carved out a number one position in the online reputation management space. There's a bunch of small players, but no one's taken a leadership position. So my goal is to make erase.com the name that you think of when it comes to managing your online digital footprint.
I mean, it sounds great.
Yeah.
It sounds great. I mean, because I guess the challenge with media, especially with online media, is that literally anybody who has a bad opinion of anybody else can publish whatever they want. Nobody fact checks it. These are independent websites, and they can just live there forever. There's an article about me, which is a complete nonsense article about something that happened, and I was on an overseas flight when the reporter tried to contact me to get my take on it, and he couldn't get a hold of me. He had sent me an email as I was taking off. I didn't see it. I landed. I actually went to Israel, so I landed whatever it was, 11, 12 hours later, and that's it. They already published, and so there was no talking to him. And it's interesting that literally like anybody can just write anything. So it sounds like it sounds to me like it's a very useful service, and you're also doing it on an enterprise level. I believe it's not just for individuals; it's for companies as well.
That's right. You know, B2B law firms, franchises. That's really where the growth is going to be, probably on an enterprise level. Those are bigger relationships.
And do you also are you also an investor? Like, do you invest in other companies passively, or do you always take a position and like you're on the board? And
I'm a passive investor in a bunch of things. We have other stuff. We don't have to get into the whole Sandner portfolio.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, right now I'm an investor in a really cool robotics company. A plug. They're called Standard Bots.
Okay.
And they I got in very early. Not a huge investment, but now it's worth significantly more. And they just. I don't know if they've announced their raise, but they just did a Series B at a much higher valuation. I'm in like pre-Series A.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing. I also invested in a robot company.
Oh yeah,
yeah. They're called, I think, Form something.
We should get them to compete.
Figure.
Our robots will challenge your robots to a fight
no problem.
Or something.
I came in.
Our robots will pick and pack you and put you in.
No problem. Actually, the company that I invested in, I think it's called Figure AI. They recently got a contract with BMW to provide the robots on their assembly line. So that's kind of cool. They raised at a $1.9 billion valuation. And so I got in a small investment there. So I'm pretty excited to see how that works out. David, how do you have time to manage all of this? Because that's where I don't understand how this works. Like, how do you have time?
Well, like I said, it comes down to the people.
Yeah.
So I have really good people in every product that I have. In fact, I wouldn't even proceed on something if I didn't have a strong leader. And so I got my systems down. I have a very specific way that I like them to report to me. Mm-hmm. I meet with them weekly. I have things color coded so that I know where to focus on. The reds and the yellows and the greens don't need as much attention. Right. And I can get our meetings done in an hour or so. And because they're highly competent, off they go and they do the thing. I give them a lot of responsibility. And then I remain super available, so that I can answer people's text messages.
You are super available.
Yeah.
I know that Layla has an assistant.
Yeah,
Layla, she's great. I mean, and she's very much like a guard. Like she's there making sure that Layla is where she needs to be at all time, like at the right time, and
right.
and she's guarding her time. If I have a meeting with Layla, she'll be there. She'll be like, okay, guys, we gotta, okay, cool. I don't see that person around you. Like who's handling you?
I share this lady you're talking about, but like 5% of her time. No, I'm pretty self-sufficient.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do my own schedule, and I don't need a lot, and I'm highly efficient. Layla and I, go through our days, I think, quite differently.
Yeah.
I have a different approach.
David, you've been through as much as you've been through. You've accomplished as much as you have. Has your definition of happiness changed over time? Of what makes you happy?
I didn't even know what happiness was, Gary. If you asked me years ago, I'd probably give you some definition that would be completely, not true.
So what does it mean for you today?
For me, happiness is, it's a state. So we talked earlier about, happiness, joy. These are states. It's a state of being, just being happy. Of course, there's an underlying peacefulness, but happiness is just a state, and happiness you can get from just watching a couple of children play, or appreciating a beautiful day.
I have one final question.
Sure.
I have one final question to the individual who's stressed out, to the individual who's trying really hard and not accomplishing what they want to accomplish, to the individual who is fearful, to the individual who considers giving up, to the individual who has so many people relying on them. You've been in that situation. All of the things that I just said. What's your advice to the person who's finding themselves here? Because you're on the other side of this.
So I have a lot of compassion for this type of person that you're describing. And you're describing a perpetual state of suffering.
Yes.
And how do you stop suffering when you're, it's like fixing an airplane in mid-flight is really the challenge. And so the best thing to do is, in my opinion, is extract yourself from the stressors. It's confusing. Stress can be multi-layered. You have something that triggers you, and then something else that triggers you, and then you're off to the races, and you've gone off the rails, and you don't even know, why am I so stressed in the first place? And it might have been something that happened 2 days ago, the way your spouse glanced at you, for example, and it gets really confusing. So first of all, it's a process, and it's a lifelong process. And the same person that you're talking about, if you were to ask them what advice would they give somebody else, they would probably give similar advice. We don't do these things on our own. I would remove myself from the situation, go to the beach, take a walk. I remember very clearly going to the beach, sitting in the sand, and meditating. Before meditating, how am I possibly going to get to a relaxed state? We have to get to a relaxed state in order to be able to see clearly. If our minds are spinning around with this monkey brain kind of thing going on, and we're in a state of suffering, then we're not going to be able to have the insights on how to make changes. Those insights that happen when our brains have calmed down, I believe that's God talking to you. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks, as long as you must find that peaceful state first. And the best way to do that is get yourself out of there, get some alone time and get serious, like really, really get serious, get super selfish, and take the time and just find that peaceful moment, which is a muscle that has atrophied into nothingness. It's so weak. It's the suffering states are strong and powerful.
Yeah.
Being in a peaceful, non-suffering state is like a tiny, tiny little muscle that hasn't been worked out our entire lives. It's going to take a long time for it to develop some strength. Have some patience with yourself. Have the courage to do it. Find that moment of peace. Have the insight. Oh, now I know what was really bothering me. And then rinse and repeat. Keep at it over and over and over again. And eventually you'll shift from the 90% of the times of suffering to 10% of the time suffering. And which will make things even more easier to recognize in real time as they're happening. That's my advice.
Thank you, David. David, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time for this.
Sure, Gary.
This was great. I feel like I'm breaking your story because I don't feel you've ever sat down and so candidly had a conversation with somebody.
I have never done anything like this before, Gary.
Well, it really is my honor and my pleasure for you to have chosen to do this with me. So thank you, David.
I appreciate. Oh, you're a friend, and I appreciate you. And I knew this would be fun and entertaining for me.
Well, as it has been for me. So now we're going to go to the backyard. I'm going to show you my cold plunge and sauna setup.
Sure.
We're not going to do the cold plunge and sauna now, but I'm going to book you, and we're going to do it another time.
Okay, fine.